Marcia Keys, and it gives me great pleasure in behalf of our over 8,000 students, our 200 full-time faculty, our many dedicated adjuncts, to bring you greetings and to welcome you to this evening of conversation. It is really a delight to have the two doctors in the house, Drs. William Cosby and Frank Savage, to discuss their latest books, both of which I must tell you I have read, and I found them more than engaging. Both authors are consummate storytellers. I also extend special greetings and thanks to our moderator, news anchor Cheryl Wells, who herself is a published author of the wonderful book Die Free, a well-received memoir of her brave ancestors. I thank Ms. Pat Thomas, President, and the entire sisterhood of the Greater Queens chapter of the Lynx. Yes, because it is through your collaboration that we are here tonight. A special thanks also to go out to our students who are participating, including a number of our Thurgood Marshall Scholarship recipients who make us proud every single day. To our public officials, thank you all for being here. I know our borough president is here, our deputy borough president is here, and many other public officials who have supported us at York over the years and support us today. We really appreciate the work you do for us. We appreciate the town-gown relationship, and that is why this kind of event is so important to us. A few special greetings to my sister, Dr. Maxwell, to Honorable Hazel Dukes, to Francis Savage and Mr. Bridges, who are here tonight. It's a delight to host you and to welcome you. York College welcomes you all, named and unnamed, to this fabulous, fabulous evening of conversation with Bill Cosby and Frank Savage. Have a great evening, everyone.
Dear President Dr. Marcia Keys, thank you for being such a valued partner. I am Patricia Thomas. I am the president of Greater Queens Chapter of the Lynx, and I give greetings to all of you, our distinguished guests this evening. On behalf of Greater Queens Chapter of the Lynx Incorporated, I welcome you to this very special celebration, the annual African American Read-In, honoring the cultural literary legacy of African Americans that is appropriately scheduled in Black History Month. Every one of you is an honored guest tonight, and I want to especially thank the members of the Lynx who've come out in support of this event tonight. May I ask the presidents of the Big Apple Cluster of New York, of the Lynx, to please stand and be acknowledged. Presidents? I'd like to ask the wonderful committed ladies of Greater Queens Chapter to please stand. And please be joined by all visiting Lynx who've come from near and far. Thank you all for your support. Please give a hand to these very dedicated community leaders, these community volunteer leaders who give of their time, talent, and treasure to care for the citizens of the borough of Queens. Not only do they raise funds to provide services to our youth, but also to our senior citizens, to those in need because of disasters that have hit their lives. And of course, we work with young people to help them appreciate more the joys of education as they carry on in their journey through life. So again, thank you, Lynx Sisters. I especially want to thank our co-chairs for this evening, Link Cheryl Wills and Link Sandy Berger, for pulling this event together. The Chief Marketing Officer, also a Link sister, Cheryl Joyner, whose finesse helped us pull this very wonderful event together, and the entire staff of York, including Matt Katz and his team here at the Performing Arts Center. Special kudos to Mondell Seeley and Dr. Jean Phelps from York as well for helping us. Thank you. They deserve a hand of applause. I want you to know that there are books available in the lobby, the books that have been signed by Dr. Cosby and Dr. Savage. And you will be able to take a picture with them at the end of the program if you have a book. So I highly recommend that you get to the lobby, if you haven't already, to purchase your book so that you can enjoy a memory with both of them at the end of the program. I am so excited to say that Bill Cosby and Frank Savage are in Queens. It's just a wonderful thing. This is a very special night for our borough. And now I have the distinct honor of introducing my link sister, who happens to be an award-winning published author and journalist that we all know and love. Please welcome the very talented Cheryl Wills.
News station, New York will know. I know they've been knocking on your door trying to steal you away to FIO. I'm going to ask you to stay with Weather on the Ones, all right? We have two icons, one in entertainment, one in the field of business. But no matter what your interest is, especially for the students, these two men are here to inspire you. And if you're not a student, they are here to empower you. So there's a lot to get from tonight. But before we bring them out, watch this videotape.
Global Wall Street financier, world-class yachtsman, and critically acclaimed author Frank Savage is a force of nature. Born in North Carolina and raised by a single mother in Senator in Washington, D.C., Savage rose to prominence in the world of international banking and investment at Citibank and Alliance Capital Management, and he broke down racial barriers along the way.
Being the first African American to join Citibank in the international division, one of the first to go overseas, I think that the fact that I had grown up in that type of bicameral type of environment, I think it helped me a lot.
In the Frank Savage playbook, there are 4 keys to winning in business and life: self-confidence, preparation, leadership, and handling pressure. He generously shares his secrets in his critically acclaimed book, The Savage Way, Successfully Navigating the Waves of Business and Life.
I'm a forward thinker, I'm not a backward thinker. I don't try to go around with a chip on my shoulder. I can't think about the negative. Let someone else waste their time by thinking about negatives. I'm going to think about positive things.
Savage's positive attitude has won him numerous regattas, and he's an advisor to the National Sailing Center and Hall of Fame in Annapolis. He holds a BA from Howard University and an MA from Johns Hopkins University and sits on numerous prestigious boards. Savage credits his beloved mother, a hairdresser and entrepreneur with little formal education, who taught him how to transcend all limits and keep the wind at his back.
I happen to watch her every day in her beauty parlor. She set an example for me by her actions, because I saw how she ran her business, but also by her deeds, because every day she would tell me, Frank, you can be anything you want to be.
He has educated and entertained children of all ages. Over the past century, few have achieved the legendary status of Bill Cosby. His career spans 5 decades in virtually all media, remarkable accomplishments for a kid who emerged from humble beginnings in a Philly housing project.
I came out of service, then I ended Temple University. Physical education major. Now I hear somebody like, you're down.
In the 1960s, his stand-up act was a coast-to-coast sensation, spawning a string of hilarious, best-selling comedy albums, which went on to win 8 gold records, 5 platinum records, and 5 Grammys.
No, I actually think that coming into Mexico is a very good idea. Good thinking.
His role on TV's I Spy made him the first African-American to co-star in a dramatic series, breaking television's racial barrier and winning 3 Emmys. In the 1980s, he again rocked the television world with The Cosby Show, a gentle, whimsical, and hugely successful series that single-handedly revived the family sitcom and is still watched all over the world today.
Daddy, it's hard to shop for you on Father's Day.
Why?
Because it's so close to your birthday.
Father's Day is June 16th. My birthday is in October.
Dr. Cosby's latest book is I Didn't Ask to Be Born, but I'm sure glad I was. And he's still going strong, doing stand-up on Comedy Central, bringing joy and laughter to a whole new generation of fans.
Is this a new Comedy Central? I said, no, it's the one that you see all the time. So, one of the guys started crying. So I said, what's the matter? Mr. Cosby's gonna curse.
Bill Cosby is quite simply a national treasure with the unique ability to touch people's hearts.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think for coming to Queens, they deserve a standing ovation. Dr. Frank Savage and Dr. Bill Cosby. Please give them a Queens welcome. So gentlemen, thanks to both of you for coming to Queens. And I'll start with you, Frank. I think, Bill, do you need help with your microphone?
No.
Okay. So Frank, let me start with you. It's very touching in your book, The Savage Way. You talk about your mom and how she was a hairdresser in D.C., Madame La Savage.
Madame La Savage.
Madame La Savage.
With that little curl to it, you know.
How did she inspire you?
Well, she inspired me in many ways. First, by setting an example herself, by making a decision when she first came from North Carolina to Washington, D.C. with, as she used to say, 2 twins. One of my twins, my twin sister Frances, is right here. And, my aunt used to tell me that Grace Savage, which was her real name, came up to New York, and she used to say, you know, I got on a train and all I had was 2 twins and a can of milk. so thank God the train ride wasn't too long. So she came up, and then she sort of remade herself. You know, those days in Washington, D.C., everyone kind of worked for the government. You know, it's a very safe place to work. You know, everybody can give you some stability. But she decided that she wanted to go for it. So rather than working for the government, she decided to start her own business. And she started it in my bedroom. She started, as we used to say, fixing hair in my bedroom. I couldn't go to sleep until she finished with her customers. My grandmother would come down with a little towel and squeeze a towel on me and water. And she'd say, okay, Frank, you can go to bed now. So I watched her start from that humble beginning to get her own shop where she was very successful. I watched her when she decided that she wanted to become an international person in the beauty business. She wanted to differentiate herself. So what she did is that she took Frances and I up to New York. We stayed up in Harlem with some friends. She took us to to what is now the Time Warner Center, and she was the only African-American there styling hair. So she was exposing us to the international world right there. So what she would do, several cases in life, she would expose us to things. She exposed me to Africa, you know, because she used to actually do the hair for the wife of the Liberian ambassador. So I got to know them, and they came to our house. She was constantly opening up my horizons. You know, and I didn't know that, obviously, but she was opening up my horizons. And the thing about La Savage that was so incredible is that how could she have known that one day opportunities would develop for people like us and that I would be ready to move through those doors? I was ready psychologically because I believed in myself, because she had told me I was the greatest thing since sliced bread. You know, I believed I had the education from Howard University, and then I had been honed up at Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies. So when I walked into Citibank International, where no other African American had ever worked in the international division of Citibank, which was the biggest global bank at that time, I felt like I was ready for that. I didn't feel inferior. I didn't feel that, oh my God, how did I get here? I felt like I belonged there because I was prepared. But all of that started with Madame La Savage.
Madame La Savage, that's a great story. That's a great story. Dr. Cosby, you there? Your book is called I Didn't Ask to Be Born, but I'm Sure Glad I Was. What's behind that title?
We had an idea that our children would find that we loved them and they would trust us. And we would guide them towards education, much like Frank's mother, and that they would find a foundation and go on and become whatever they wanted to become with education opening the way. And so our firstborn daughter at age 10, wasn't one of those people. So it's a very simple thing, one day, about a 10-year-old girl, firstborn, cleaning up a room. Those of us who are parents, you develop this sense of recognizing filth. And it's generally in an underachieving child's bedroom that you've given to these people. You gave them a room. And so my wife brought me up to look at the room. I don't know why she wanted to punish me. And she said to me, with the daughter standing there, the daughter was 10, and she's our firstborn, and she's just trying to make my wife understand how much she hates her. My wife is a very wise, brilliant, off-the-cuff woman. I mean, these daughters and our son, they didn't know. They were afraid of me, but they didn't know who the wise one, who could come up with things. I mean, I heard one daughter come downstairs and say to my wife, her mother, "I'm bored." And my wife said to her, "That's because you're boring." I mean, it didn't take any time. It was like... So my wife brought me up to the room, and she looked at me, she said, "Have you ever seen such filth in your life?" And I said, "No, I haven't, Your Honor." And the daughter shouted out, "I didn't ask to be born." And that's where the title comes from. I mean, I thought of 3 things to say to her, but I didn't say them because I would not, I feel, get into heaven. One of the things I want to say to these young people, first of all, I want to thank these women, the Links, because I think that those people in this audience, many of you want to do something and you want to find something to help. But we need to be a nation of people who give, people who care, people who reach out. And these young ladies, They do that. They give service. Nobody told them to. I think maybe they saw it. Frank is that kind of person. And Frank will lead you to believe that his mother did so forth. But Frank won't tell you about these hits upside his head when Madame turned into Mama Please. It is in the home, ladies and gentlemen. It's all in the home. It is not with an absent father who was very proud to say, I don't believe in responsibility. I know sex is not that long. and you can get caught in a sperm cell wandering out where it shouldn't have been. But all you mothers and you fathers, and God bless Auntie so-and-so or Grandma so-and-so when somebody went bad and they adopted or had to take a child in and try and raise it against all of these things that are out there. And Frank will have to tell you that he graduated from Benjamin Banneker. That's a black school. Black school with white, Indian, Native American, Jewish teachers, and black. And so when Frank came out of that, Madame, who didn't have whatever education, see, she knew where Frank was going to go. And she also knew where his sister was going. Even though she called two people two twins. That's 4 people. But Frank also knew where he had to go, and that's Howard. And during Frank's time and before Frank's time, those Jewish teachers, Indian, Native Americans, and Asians who came to teach at Howard because they couldn't teach at Yale. They were not permitted to come to Harvard in those days. See, Frank is right there with Booker T. Washington and George Washington Carver. No, I'm serious. Harriet Tubman told him. So it's important for all of you. I'm right here at York. Look at what you have. Your president for a Jamaican. And I'll tell you, I don't like them. They come to the pin relays and they run faster. I don't like them. Go find your own relay. Now, what was your question?
You're both very successful entrepreneurs who were not born with silver spoons in your mouth.
I didn't even have a linoleum one.
So we have a lot of people in this audience who want to be entertainers, businessmen, and it's difficult to navigate in this world. How did you do it? What's the secret sauce?
Frank?
Well, yeah.
First of all, let me make Frank talk about something that's important. This is a black man walking all around. You got a sailboat. You understand what I'm saying? Washington, D.C., mother doing hair in his bedroom. Where the hell did you get the idea of the sailboat? When did the sailboat come in your mind, Frank? Answer me.
Well, Bill, it's so funny because once I was in Sardinia, over in Italy. Lolita and I were over there racing on our sailboat, Lolita. So, of course, I had to name the sailboat after my wife. That was
Frank,
the fun.
Frank, Where did you get the sailboat?
I'm gonna tell you where I got
No,
it.
you got the part where it's all
I'm
done.
gonna tell you where I got it. I'm gonna tell you where I got it. You know when I got it?
Where?
I'll tell you something. When I was a little boy.
I know where you got
When
it.
I was a little
box
boy.
tops and cereal box
No, you know,
tops.
you're very close. You're very close. You're very close. But I'll tell you something. It's funny how things happen. You know, when it would rain in Washington, D.C., and, you know, the gutters would overflow, I would make a paper mache of a sailboat and sail it down. So when I was
And
inside...
it went into the sewer,
It went into the...
Frank. Where did you get the idea of a sailboat? You're black, Frank.
Hey, Bill.
And people, even your own people, will say to you with good sense, what the hell are you doing sailing a boat? Now, I'm just trying to get you to show, Frank, that because ignorant people sitting around the United States with nothing to do will tell you you got no business sailing. That on islands, there are black people who make their own boats, get in them. Yes, some of them sink, but by and large, they sail, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
Where do they sail, the black people, Frank?
Well, you know, a lot of Africans have sailed from Africa to the Caribbean. A lot of people from the Caribbean have sailed all around the world, you know. But it's incredible, you know, in Antigua, where we won our biggest sailboat race. It's a big international race with 400 to 500 boats, and we came out on top of everybody. And I never will forget the reaction when Lolita and I went up on the stage, and you know, it was incredible. When I walked up on the stage, there was this momentary hush. And then all of a sudden, you know, and I said, you know something? They saw this boat sailing. They saw that we were winning all the races, but they had no idea that it was my boat.
What, did you have a mask on or what? See, this is as bad
Well,
as
when you're
Doug,
out in the ocean, you know, you've got a lot of distance between
when
boats.
Doug Williams won the Super Bowl and he turned around and made a mistake and said, I'm going to Disney World. They shut that place down. Frank, you're still not answering my question. How do you, as a person, when do you get some? Did you start with a little boat, you know, and go out, and, you know, down the river, you know, rowing or something by yourself?
It's a funny story because it all actually started in the Caribbean.
Okay.
It all actually, Lolita and I were in the Caribbean once having a vacation. Somehow we decided to, you know, charter a boat just for a day sail. We went out, it was nice. But coming back...
Did it have a motor?
Yes, it did. No, it was a sailboat, but they have what they call an auxiliary engine, which is a small motor. It's not a big thing. But it would get you back to shore if you had a lot of problems. But anyway, the funny thing
Are you
was-
telling me the boat, if you get lost, knows how to get back to you?
Look, if you're the captain and you don't know how to get back, you shouldn't be out in that ocean anyhow.
Well, that's the
what
story.
it's all about.
That's the story of a lot of people.
Yeah, right. Well, I've seen that a lot of times.
People with a GPS shouldn't be out there.
The GPS won't help you when the wind builds up, or when you make a navigational mistake, or you hit something. But it was just one of those things where it was another challenge. I don't see these things as challenges. I see them as some exciting opportunity. I see a lot of, when I was working for big corporations, I had many times when there would be an opportunity to do something inside that corporation. There was a big chance to, you know, have a big victory in terms of raising capital, doing something. There was a personnel issue or something. A lot of times I find that the guys who were absolutely guys who liked to live in total security, they would be afraid of taking that risk. But somehow, because I basically had that entrepreneurial spirit in me, I would look at a situation, I'd assess it, and if I thought that I had the ability to do it, I would take it on. And I did this one time, I'll never forget this. There was a war going on in the Gulf, the first Gulf War. I had lived in Saudi Arabia, so I knew Saudi Arabia very well. I knew how to speak Arabic, I knew that world, I had friends here. And so we got a cable from a big bank out there asking us to put in a bid to manage some money. Well, nobody wanted to go to Saudi Arabia in my company. But I said, wait a minute. It was a lot of money. It was like $1 billion. And I said, wait a minute. I want to go for that $1 billion. So I called up a friend of mine who had lived in Saudi Arabia with me before, and he was living in Saudi Arabia. And I called him. He actually was running the security for all of Gulf Oil, Mobil, in that area. And I called him and I said, Jim, what's going on out there? He said, well, you know, we got this little war going on. I said, is it safe? He said, well, you know, every once in a while a Scud missile comes over, you know. But so I said, Jim, I said, look, I got an opportunity to come to Saudi Arabia and really, really get a big piece of business. It could change my whole life. I said, let me ask you a question. Do you have a way to get out after something hits the fan? You know. He said, yes, we do. I said, second question. If it hits the fan while I'm there, will you take me with you? Right. He said, yes. 2 weeks later, I was on a plane. I went to Saudi Arabia. I made the offer. I made the presentation. 2 weeks later from that, I got a call. And we got a $500 million mandate to manage an account. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it was incredible. Now, people may think, well, I'm a risk taker. I took a calculated risk. I'm not a foolish man. I got a family. I can't do that. But I knew that I had hedged my bet, so to speak, as we say in the business. So these kinds of things do come up in life, and you have to decide, is the glass half full or half empty? It's just like a couple of weeks ago when I spoke at the South African council in New York, and we were assessing the situation in South Africa. And people were seeing all these problems, and of course, South Africa has a lot of problems. But I love South Africa. I've been to South Africa many times. I was an advisor to the president there for 10 years. And when I looked at the whole picture of South Africa, I said, the question is the glass half full or half empty? I said, I see it as being half full. So I tend to be, some people would probably call me an optimist. So when the opportunity to go into sailing came up and to become a sailboat racer, I saw that glass as being half full. And maybe that's just a frame of mind that I have, but does that answer your
but
question?
that's helped you through your whole business career, being an optimist and not seeing things.
Being a reasonable optimist.
Right.
And sometimes I make mistakes. Lolita would tell you, I make a lot of mistakes in life. Sometimes I take bets on things where I want to do them. They don't work out. That's happened to me in many of the emerging markets, like in Africa. But I still love Africa. Because I am an African.
Yes, indeed.
My ancestors came from Africa.
No. Well, I will tell you, Gertrude Thornhill Cosby, my father's mother, was not her credentials were probably in cosmetology as well. And I was finishing up my freshman year at Temple University, and I was sort of, old people say, I was smelling myself. And I sat with, she was in their granddad, grandma's house, and she was asking me how school was and what was it like, and I had 3-6. And this is the first time in my life I'm really studying, and I'm going to be a physical education teacher. I'm going to grab these 7th and 8th grade boys and jack them up and explain life to them and how they're mismanaging their lives. And she said, what does so-and-so mean when you, and what courses? I said, well, I just had grandmother. I had political science, and she said, oh, what is political science? I said, well, you know, it's a matter of, and as I tried to explain, I lost my way, and was thinking, she won't understand this. My vocabulary will be too high for her. She's from Virginia, you know, and my grandmother, you know, she makes biscuits and gravy and fried chicken. And she's a nice woman, and she always only $5 in her bag. And so I said, and then sometimes I'm in just social science, political science. What is that? Well, it's really philosophy, grandmother dear. And she said, oh yes, well, what is it that you talk about? So I said, well, for instance, grandmother, a situation came up and Professor LeBlanc says to us, is the glass half full or half empty? And we debated on this for 3 hours. And we never completed the answers. As Professor LeBlanc said, well, we will continue this exhilarating discussion on Wednesday. And grandmother, to be perfectly frank, I just can't wait to get back and discuss, is the glass half full or half empty? And I felt sorry for her. And my grandmother said, is the glass half full or half empty? I said, yes, that's what it is. She said, well, it depends on if you're drinking or pouring. I couldn't wait for Wednesday. See, the wisdom of the elders. So much is put upon us in the entertainment world, these jagoombooms and no-gros, who want you to believe that old people don't know anything, when all we do is like the links, we just want to give, and we want to see you not walk into that area that we know. We want to keep you out of harm's way. Yes, we know you're a little insane about your brain, and you want to party, and you want to get that, but there are dangers there. And there's something that is true in this life that Frank and I and Cheryl, we always, after we hit a certain age, no matter how low we are, could be the stonest junkie ever. Or it could be like Frank and dealing with billions of dollars, and you will always remember something one of those old heads said to you. Because it always, it sits there. I remember old Mother Harold. I'm 76 and a half years old. And I will always remember old Mother Harold. It wasn't information. It was just what she said. I don't know what I was doing wrong. But she would just look at me and say, sometimes I worry about you. And I just walk away from her. I don't know what she's talking about, but that's it. Sometimes I worry about you. And I think all of you here in this college, you understand, professors do not become professors because they want to deal with billions of dollars. They want to give information to you. And they want you to know that the information they have to give is what they really believe. Some of the great civil rights people on the face of this earth never marched. They stood in front of the classroom and they taught. And they taught because they wanted you to know so that you would be equipped. Frank can't go to Johns Hopkins with his black face unless Howard University prepared him. Male and female, black, Asian, Jewish, whatever it is, Howard and the spirit of Howard. I don't write my comedy. I am not who I am without sitting at Temple University in remedial English. Deservedly so. I wrote a composition, and to this day, this professor is known to me as the unknown professor because he gave me an A/C-. The C- was in the margin. You know how they write in English, there are all these circles, and what do you mean, and how to... But he read my paper, He read my paper. I wrote about pulling my tooth. And the whole thing, he said, write about the first time you ever did something. I was 23 and a half years old. From that day to the next piece that I wrote, which inspired me, the first grade inspired me to believe that I could, in fact, write. I wasn't trying to be funny. I was just trying to connect, first with myself, put it on paper, and then have people read it and say, this is interesting. I wasn't even necessarily trying to connect on, wow, that happened to me. Then I wrote a piece because I was in college. I wrote a piece called Procrastination, or The Perfect Point. And it was about not wanting to get started. And so there was a pencil sharpener, it was a number 2 yellow, and I kept doing it, just, the point wasn't perfect. And the next thing I knew, all I had was that metal.
Oh, no.
So for all of you here, and some of you will have the book, read, because you can never tell what Frank has in his book that will lead you to, your mind can go places when you read. You can be in the middle of reading something and your mind will start to talk to you about things. This brain is about as weird as it can get. And all you have to do then is you sit and you write. And if you think that coming up and asking him how he did it is going to be the key, no. Because you have to be satisfied with yourself. You got to hang out with bright people. You can't hang out with losers. You can't. And I'm going to tell you my last thing here. There's a book written by Earl Lloyd, and I don't know where Earl is today. He was the first African American to score a point in the NBA. And Earl writes about, I don't know, he's 14, 16 years old, and he comes home and his mother, here we go again, because it's my mother, your mother, Earl Lloyd's mother, these women left with us, who some of them don't know anything about raising children. You know, you and I, we're from that time with beatings.
Exactly.
See?
Oh, yeah. The switch.
No, I didn't get the switch. I got an
I did.
ironing cord. And my mother was fast. And you could run, but doctor, she could outrun you. And one time it went around my neck. And all I did was I just looked up and I saw Jesus. And Jesus was doing like this. But I want you to know that he came home and Earl Lloyd says, his mother says, where have you been? He said, well, Mama, she said, I asked you a question. Where have you been? He's 14. He said, but Mama, she said, I'm asking you to tell me where you have been. And he said, Mama, I was out there on the corner. She said, didn't I tell you about being on that corner with those boys? He said, but Mama, I wasn't doing anything. And his mother said, and once again, here's a mother. I mean, they don't practice this. It's just their wisdom. And the fact that they love you and they care and they make sense. Mama, I wasn't doing nothing. She said, if you're not in the picture, you can't be framed.
One last quick question for you, Dr. Cosby. You know, when we call you Dr. Cosby and we see Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, most people don't make the connection that Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids was your dissertation. He's not an honorary PhD. He actually earned his PhD.
Yeah.
Well, once again, Frank has friends. a great deal of my life is divine intervention. Because I'm telling you, I'm entropy. But people come and get me. And so I was doing a performance at the University of Massachusetts, and a professor came to me after it was over. We had to stay over to go to Hartford. I did, to go to Hartford to go back to LA. And he said, Dwight Allen, the Dean of the School of Education, would like to meet with you tomorrow. And I said, okay. And he began to, the next morning, tell me how inspired he was about my routines. And I said, yes, I aim at education all the time because I didn't finish my high school. I got a GED and I still want. And he offered me the opportunity to take Fat Albert and to academically put it together so that it could in fact be put on TV, thinking about not teaching, but aiding in the home, and the teachers, anybody who saw it, to aid. And that's exactly what happened, my master's and my doctorate. Now just let me explain Anna Pearl Cosby. When I went across the stage and received my paper, I came and I sat down, and the security guard fell over. And it was my 4'11" mother had knocked this man down to get to me, to sit in my lap and kiss me. Mothers have this weird idea that that paper means a lot.
It does.
When my mother died, she had in her will, she left me $48,000. So I would have something to fall back on.
That's sweet.
Fantastic.
Do you tweet? We have some questions via tweet for both of you, and we're going to be really quick about it because we have some awards to give out to you, and then we are going to have you, for people who bought books, you can take a picture with Mr. Savage.
Take a picture with you.
Take a picture with you. So bring to me. People have been tweeting, they've been on New York College, and we're going to do this in rapid fire because we want to stay within our time. Mr. Savage, at York, students major in both liberal arts fields and pre-professional programs. Do you think a liberal arts degree is a good preparation for entering the business world? Someone tweeted.
You want me to answer that question?
Yes.
Absolutely, without question. You know, I tell you, I never got an MBA. Because at that time, MBAs weren't all that important, and I was absolutely convinced that I wanted to go into something international. But I didn't know whether it would be business. But let me come back to the liberal arts education. Liberal arts, or the social sciences, form the basis for real intelligence. Because they talk to you about the social sciences. They talk to you about people. They talk to you about geography. Talk to you about English. Talk to you about those things. You just can't be a monolithic person that only knows how to run a calculator.
Right.
You need to understand the world. You need to be able to talk to people about things. That exudes intelligence. So you need to be a well-rounded person. So I think it's best to start off with the liberal arts undergraduate degree, and then if you want to, you can go and get a business degree or an engineering degree, whatever you want. So but that liberal arts, that broad core education that teaches you about the world and people is absolutely essential to be a well-rounded, sophisticated person.
A tweet for you, Dr. Cosby. In the age of the internet, with so many channels to be expressive, what advice do you have for someone trying to break into comedy?
Right. And when you feel something is funny, right. And I don't mean like this. I mean, you can do like this, but I love that. I love that. I think that well, it's old-fashioned, but here's the brain. It releases something, and it runs on down here, and then it comes out in later, and it goes across that paper. And there are times when you won't get what you're looking for, but put it aside. Don't ever throw anything away.
And last question, last tweet for you, Dr. Cosby. We all know that in all of your routines, you put your whole family on blast. Do they mind when they show up in your routine?
No, because they owe me money.
And as long as they owe you, you won't be broke, right?
Hey.
All right. We're going to call up to the stage now Dr. Geneva Walker-Johnson. She's the Vice President of Student Development here at York College with a special presentation to a distinguished retiring professor, Charles Coleman.
Good evening. It is my distinct honor and privilege to have the opportunity to introduce or reintroduce to some of you Dr. Charles Coleman, recently retired Associate Professor of English at York College. Since his graduation from Teachers College at Columbia University in 1973, Dr. Coleman has dedicated his life to setting up special community programs to help young students understand the importance of reading and ignite their desire to read books. Over the years, he has encouraged thousands of young students, particularly African American students, to read, and is at the root of why we are gathered here this evening. Permit me to take a few moments to share a bit more about this remarkable gentleman. As an applied linguist and a member of the York College faculty, Dr. Coleman taught a wide variety of courses in English department, including sociolinguistics, pragmatics and literacy practices of speakers of African American vernacular English, and an introduction to cultural diversity. As a matter of fact, he is one of the founders of York College's Cultural Diversity Program and also co-chaired the African American Heritage Month activities. I draw your attention to one very special activity, the annual African American Read-In Chain. Originally introduced by Dr. Dolores Straker, this is an annualized literacy event born out of the Black Caucus of the National Councils of Teachers of English. The first Sunday and Monday in February, people across the country gather in groups to read from African American writers. Dr. Charles Coleman has kept this rich tradition alive at York College for over 24 years. More recently, the Greater Chapter of the Links Incorporated, which had been organizing its own annual read-in chain activities, has been collaborating with York to produce this annual event. I would ask Ms. Patricia Thomas to please join me in presenting this plaque to Dr. Charles Coleman on behalf of York College and the many young African American readers his dedication has touched.
Dr. Coleman, as a member and now president of Greater Queens Chapter of the Links, it's been both an honor and a pleasure to collaborate with you and York College for the past several years in hosting the annual African American Read-In in the past on Super Bowl Sunday on this campus. Together, we've witnessed the wonder of young people hearing distinguished authors read from their works. We've also witnessed young people blossom with pride before the open mic as they shared the works that they themselves authored. And we've enjoyed reading as well as dance and song during these special events. Dr. Coleman, you've been the backbone of this celebration of our cultural literary legacy, and we will miss you at York. but we look forward to your continued participation with us in the future. Thank you for your enormous contributions and your partnership.
Thank you very much. When I'm in front of a captive audience like this, I have a standard speech. Please, if you have children, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, read with them, read to them, and equally important, let them see you reading. Thank you.
You're much taller than I thought. Can we take a picture with you? Sure enough.
Gift of thanks to Drs. Cosby and Savage. Hope you will wear it.
You've got to be kidding.
Frank, yeah.
You told me we were going to get some money. And I said, when? You said, watch for the bag. The glass is half full, and I'm not drinking. So you better pour. How are you? Yes.
Good.
Let me see this.
Thank you very much.
Maybe it's in the lining.
Oh, yeah, come on, come on.
This is for real. There's nothing. This is no money here at all. Well, where's the tag? Maybe I can turn it back in. I don't know what I'm gonna. Mrs. Cosby gonna hit me or do something. She's always used to me bringing home some money. Probably get an ironing cord in the face.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you.
And yes. All right. Take care. Do we stay here?
Yes, you do.
You want to
Come back. Find something.
Yeah.
More gifts, more gifts.
Did you get any money?
Take your time, man. Fine.
I'm not working with you anymore.
Dr. Cosby?
Yes? Oh, what, Cheryl?
Yes, sir.
That's it for you? Who called me?
I did.
What do you want?
Buy a book and you get a picture.
Okay.
Is this? Who is this with the hard
Make
rock
him say
voice?
still, boy.
Been drinking straight corn liquor or something. All right, you're
All
welcome.
right.
Thank
Now
you.
we'd
Thank
like
you.
to bring back to the stage Greater Queens Links Chapter President Patricia Thomas and Arts Co-Chair Sandy Berger.
Good.
So,
This is
Dr.
the
Cosby.
Lynx. This is the Lynx. They're known for giving. Yes, ma'am?
Yes, Dr. Cosby. Harriet Ann Jacobs was an African-American writer who escaped slavery and became an abolitionist speaker and reformer, and she's credited with being the first African-American to publish a novel. I'm excited to present an award to you in her name, from one trailblazer to another. Dr. William Cosby.
Is there a sliding? Thank you, thank you. In all seriousness, I appreciate it. Thank you. I'll put this in the bag.
Okay.
With the sweatshirt. And does she go with me? You gonna give Frank something too?
If you'd like, yes.
Yeah. Let me see Frank's present. Frank.
And Dr. Frank Savage.
No, there's no money.
Your extraordinary accomplishments in the world of finance have made you a legend, and your charitable contributions aimed at the future of our children have had a lasting impact on so many lives. Few have risen to the levels of influence and power that you have, and we are so proud of your willingness to share your journey with us tonight through your book and through this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our program. However, Dr. Cosby and Mr. Savage have generously agreed to take pictures with every one of you if you have a book.
And that doesn't mean take the picture and then go outside and give the book to a friend of yours.